You're listening to Podcast PXN,
a video game podcast
delivering player experience news.
Let's go! What is up, guys, and welcome to Podcast PXN, episode 252. I am one of your hosts, Daniel Prindle, aka Dan is DTM on Twitter, and I am joined over Discord, not by the Nintendo aficionado, Roshan Warner, at Roro. He's still on vacation, but he will return. And not by Christian Macias at ISO Christian. Of course, he's the video producer at the the gamer, not DualShockers anymore. He is visiting some family, so keeping him in our thoughts with the things he's got going on right now with his family. But I am joined by the reclaimed Tarkov Teletubby and fellow Spartan Gage Dempster at Gilbo Biggins.
Dan, happy to be here today.
Are you still at Gilbo Biggins? Because last I heard, you may not have that account, right?
Wait, what?
Wait, didn't something happen to your Twitter account?
I just don't have the password login. So it's still logged in. I'm still Gilbo Biggins. I just can't ever log out of my desktop. Otherwise, I'll lose the account.
Yeah, you can't get a new PC either.
Exactly. Right. It's fine. We're doing great. Everything's fine.
Thank you to everyone who is watching us live and participating in the chat. Just as a reminder, we are live each and every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern time on youtube.com/@podcastpxn and twitch.tv/podcastpxn as well. The topic of the show this week is we're going to be talking about what we think the most important franchises to Xbox are, or at least in the eyes of Microsoft. We're going to have a little discussion about that. But first, the show always starts with the quick bites, so let's go ahead and jump right in. But yes, Glenn and Kirik are in the chat. Glenn, it was 2 boxes. Or not 2 boxes, it was 2 packages. It's the way they package them is different here, whatever.
Sounds like you scarfed down 2 boxes of macaroni and cheese.
Not 2 boxes.
Right before the podcast started.
No, 2 boxes would be an insane amount of mac and cheese. This is
right.
Nowhere close to that.
That would be something you would never admit to under any circumstances on the podcast.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. No, Glenn, it's not boxes. You could say how many boxes 7 times. It doesn't come in boxes for what I was using it for. Anyways, moving on. The first quick bite here, Gage. The Halo TV series has officially been canceled by Paramount Plus, and the producers are shopping the series elsewhere. It probably is not going to get picked up, considering I want to say that this series was like the 7th most expensive TV series of all time. I don't see anybody picking it up.
No, I think it's about time that we all pour one out for Showtime's Halo. You will be missed by some, you will not be missed by others, but you came, you went, you saw, you conquered, and I think now you float off into the sunset.
Float off. Maybe 10 years from now we'll get something else. We'll see. We'll see. We'll be old men by then, yelling at the clouds.
Well, one of us will.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Yeah, and that'll be you. The next quick bite. We have hot off the press, Gage. I just saw this actually right before I was getting ready for the show here. We have a new Halo Infinite update coming next week, and there was already announcements of VIP mode that is coming with this update, as well as we are getting Headhunter added sometime in this operation that's releasing. It's not going to be there the day 1 of the operation, but it's going to release sometime within the operation. But also we got a lot more details on the actual substance of the update, which we are getting a massive Forge update, which is really cool. The Forge team for Halo Infinite has just done God's work. They've done incredible stuff here, and they continue to do some really cool stuff. They're adding Jeff Steitzer's voice to Forge with over 1,000 lines that you can script in multiplayer maps. And of course, if you don't know, Jeff Steitzer is the multiplayer announcer for Halo. He has done it since Halo Combat Evolved. And yeah, that dude's a legend. I love this. So we're getting that. We're also getting campaign music that is being added into Forge as well. So all the music that was in the campaign, you will be able to select that in scripts as well. They're also adding new nav markers to kind of help with these custom game modes that people are coming up with in Forge. These new nav markers, there's a bunch of them here. I'm not going to go over all of them, but they will help with readability and figuring out what you're doing in the custom game modes that people are creating. And along with that as well, we're getting new text strings and message templates, which basically allows you to, again, help these custom modes. They're adding the VIP mode nodes. So the VIP mode that they're adding on day one of the operation, they're going to have all of those options in Forge as well for people to add as well. New named locations, Spartan tracking, mini game variants, etc. There's a lot to this update, so very happy to see more Forge improvements.
I am very happy to see my beloved operator helmet return. That is the most important thing in this update. Daniel, I can finally complete my Halo Reach Spartan. And of course, speaking of Halo Reach, Headhunter. I mean, come on. Headhunter, come on.
The question is, how much is that going to cost?
The question is, how much am I going to pay for it?
Oh, gosh. Kirik, yes, I will send you the Discord link when I have a second. I will do that for you, so you can send us your picture. All right. Moving on from there, Gage. I don't know if you saw this or not, but we got a Splitgate 2 announcement trailer. It is coming in 2025. Of course, this is from many former 343 veterans that made Halo 4 and 5. And we are getting Splitgate 2 now, and we got a little cinematic look at it. Here it comes. It's coming back.
I know Christian will be excited for this one. He was a big fan of the first Splitgate.
Yeah. I mean, if you enjoyed Halo 4's multiplayer, you will enjoy Splitgate, because it's basically that. But no, Splitgate 2, actually, ironically enough, there was a couple of features in the trailer, the cinematic trailer, that reminded me a lot of Halo 5, which is funny. Like the ground pound mechanic, one of the characters in the cinematic does that multiple times. So it's kind of interesting. They're bringing that stuff in as well, more mobility. So be interesting. Interesting. Next up, we have the FTC is apparently calling Xbox Game Pass Standard a degraded product. Don't ask me to go back over what Xbox Game Pass Standard covers, because who the fuck knows, as we talked about last week. It's way too confusing. No, I think Standard is the new version, the new standard version of Game Pass, which has all of the games except for not launch day exclusives, not first party exclusives on day one. It has online multiplayer, and it has the Game Pass games for console. But yeah, they're saying it's degraded, which is a fair statement. I mean, you're losing day one games. It's kind of like a trade-off, I guess. They added online multiplayer, but they took away day one games, and they raised the price. So it's like it's more a loss than it is a gain. So in that sense, I think FTC has an argument there.
They do. I think that, yeah, it's tough though. They might have an uphill battle because there's a lot of people calling into question, well, if you're going to take Microsoft to court over this, which I'm not saying they shouldn't necessarily, I'm not disagreeing that it is a downgraded product, but a lot of people are saying, well, how come you never get Netflix or Amazon Prime Video or any of these other companies taken to court when they constantly upgrade their prices and don't add any new features, right? So I don't know. It's interesting. We'll see what happens. I don't know. A part of me is also kind of like, we went through so many roller coaster rides with FTC versus Xbox, where I'm just kind of like, I don't want to think. I don't want to hear any any more about the FTC or Xbox for like at least the next 6 months, please.
Yeah, that's totally fair. I'm realizing I don't even actually know how to share the Discord, so I'm trying to find that for Turek. Invites. I don't know. I'll figure it out. Interesting. All right, moving on. Microsoft is no longer investing in Europe, Gage. Is that what's happening? I don't know. Jess Corden says Xbox's marketing EMEA lead laments Microsoft's lack of investment. PlayStation is blessed with marketing funds that we're just not able to enjoy. So essentially, it sounds like, and we've heard this from Tom Warren previously already, that essentially Microsoft has given up in Europe, is what it sounds like, which is insane. I mean, Europe is still a pretty big market, so to just throw in the towel, I don't know how that's going to help them. I don't know. It's not very optimistic feeling hearing stuff like this.
It's cause for concern. I don't know what their long-term plan is. I've never bought into the sort of some of the more extreme theories about Xbox's short-term future, but I mean, when you read stuff like this, it is concerning. Like, I don't know how this could help. What the plus side is. Like, it's such, like you said, it's such a large market that, like, I can't imagine you're saving more money than you would have made if you're fighting for that demographic, for that sort of I don't know what Phil's doing or what CEO of Microsoft is planning, but it's strange. We're just living in strange times when it comes to the video game industry.
We are indeed. Kirik, I have the Discord link in the chat, so there you go. Boom. All right. Gage, moving on. NetherRealm is experiencing some layoffs, mainly in their mobile division. Essentially, they had a separate team that was working on Mortal Kombat Onslaught, which was one of their mobile games. They also have Mortal Kombat Mobile and Injustice 2 Mobile. And essentially, the Mortal Kombat Onslaught team all got laid off as they're closing operations in October, according to their post. So that definitely a sad time for more developers to get laid off. And our historic run of developers being laid off this year continues.
Right. Speaking of things I don't want to hear about for 6 months, video game layoffs. We can add video game layoffs to that list.
That's true.
And by I don't want to hear about it, I mean I don't want it to happen.
Right.
Yes, just so that we're clear.
Yeah. No, Gage doesn't want to hear it. Don't fucking tell me if anyone else gets laid off. But good news is, Gage, Warner Brothers, what did they do with that money that they saved on laying off people? They acquired Player First Games, the developers of Multiverses. So there you go. They decided to lay off some of their developers to go ahead and pick up a developer. There we go.
Right, which they will continue to support into the indefinite future and definitely not lay off at the first sign of trouble.
Right. Yeah. Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Multiverses 2 doesn't hit sales expectations, and then boom, they're fucked.
Right back where we started. And the wheel goes on and on and on and on and on.
Yeah. Gage, we don't have any street meets this week. I don't have anything in there. However, we've got a couple of PXN News of the Week items, so let's go ahead and jump into those. First item here is a bit of a W. Bethesda Game Studios workers have unionized. So this is coming from Stephen Totillo. He was one of the ones breaking the news. He said, Bethesda Game Studios workers have unionized. This is not the same as the QA union. This time it's wall-to-wall, 241 developers, including artists, engineers, programmers, and designers, per the CWA. And they say Microsoft has recognized the union. Very good news for them. And on the back of that, we also got news just today, I believe, that World of Warcraft workers at Microsoft's Blizzard, of course, since they purchased them, have voted to unionize. Over 500 employees have organized across multiple departments, creating the first wall-to-wall union of its kind at the studio. Well, he says first, but I guess Bethesda, we just talked about Bethesda doing that. I don't know. Semantics, I guess. But yeah, very cool to see a couple more developers kind of put their back to the wall and say, hey, we're not going anywhere. We're going to stick together and ride through this, I guess.
Absolutely. It's one of the only, if not the only, defense that the people in the industry have against these giant mega corporations and all these massive mergers. If you want to stop yourself from being a number on a spreadsheet, you can't really, but you can join a union, and the union will do its best to protect you. And this is definitely, like you said earlier, when you're introducing the topic, a huge W. And I hope it has a positive ripple effect throughout the industry. And I hope people stop losing their jobs, because they make these companies a lot of money and they are not given their due. So, big dub for the people over at Bethesda. And who knows? And that's the important thing. Another trickle effect, maybe this increases the quality of video games. Maybe unions give these people the power to put their foot down and to actually hold the C-suite accountable and get better products at the door. So
absolutely,
big W's all around.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. And that's kind of, I was going to ask what the impact on the industry is, but that's exactly what it's going to be. It's holding these people accountable and, you know, not just letting them lay off people at the first sign of, you know, issues or you know, troubling times.
Perceived trouble, right? That's the thing. Sometimes not even trouble, perceived trouble.
That's true. Yeah. We're forecasting our sales are going to be lower, so we got to cut people now. Like, yeah. All right, before we get to the other news of the week item, Gage, I just want to show you this picture, which is rotated the wrong way, that Christian sent in our chat. Well, fudge, the fact that this is rotated the wrong way. It's causing problems. Hang on. Audio listeners, I apologize. But
you gotta lock your screen rotation.
Yeah. Or take the picture the correct way, you know? All right, so Christian just sent this. Hang on, I'll show you in a second, Gage.
Okay.
Thumbs up and power your dreams box. He got his Xbox.
Let's go.
Let's go. A little scoop there.
I see some native backwards compatibility in the future segments of what you got for me.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. All right. Moving into the second news of the week item, Gage. Activision reportedly sold an AI-generated microtransaction in Modern Warfare 3 last year. We've talked a lot about all the AI garbage that is happening out there, and essentially forcing artists to do things that they may not necessarily want to do, or people that aren't artists are using it. But in this case, the bundle was sold for 1,500 COD points, which values at approximately $15. A lot of 2D artists were laid off, one anonymous Activision artist told the site. Remaining concept artists were then forced to use AI to aid in their work. Forced to use it. Activision employees were allegedly made to sign up for AI training, with its use promoted throughout the business. Generative AI is one of the this is just fluff that IGN's adding here. But essentially, yes, this is kind of a sign of the dooming times that we're headed towards. And I hope that this does not continue down this path, because not only is art that's not created by actual people troubling, but like forcing artists to use the tool, like, you know, I don't think that forcing someone to use it is necessarily going to create a better product either. Like, I don't know, man.
I think they're forcing their developers to use it because they're going to want more quantity and they're going to want it faster.
True.
And this is the type of stuff that a union can come in and fix. You can have terms in your contract that are agreed upon where you can outlaw the use of AI. So just to jump back to our last segment, right? That's some of the things that we can see eradicated if we do get unionization, because this is bullshit. And like, it's funny because, I mean, we're calling it what it is, what everybody else is calling it, stuff like AI art, but it's like, I don't even know, like, can art even be made by anything other than a human? Like, it's ridiculous. And this type of stuff does not surprise me from Activision, unfortunately. It was only a matter of time before this type of stuff made its way into the development process. But yeah, this is the type of stuff I'd like to see gone if we get more unionization, because it's an insult to actual artists who make real art.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point, actually. I didn't realize how well this story intertwined with the other news of the week item, but that's spot on. Great example of that. And it's really sad to think about too, because these artists that don't want to use it, like, they're quoted in here saying, "I felt that we were throwing away our humanity," which is like, that's so fucking just disheveling. Like, that's
imagine the morale, like, when you're in
Right.
there in the trenches right now, right? Like, yeah, inspiration, aspiration, all that stuff is just evaporating. And it, yeah. Activision.
Yeah, let's not continue down that path, please, Activision. Like, that, enough is enough at this point. Like, I feel like they're always trying to push the envelope of shitty behavior. Like,
Yeah.
like other
It's a mission statement at this point
Yeah.
for their company.
yeah, other studios are pushing to make better content, and they're pushing to make shittier policies. Incredible. Oh, wow. Interesting. Okay. I thought I would be the only one with activity this week, but that leads us into our fantasy draft check-in. Gage making some moves over there.
Yes, sir.
Finally making some moves. Your list is looking a little bare bones, but
It's yeah. We're in tight water.
so to run down the week's events here, ODST Publishing, which is my team, has officially dropped the game No Rest for the Wicked because A, didn't look like it was going to do that well, and B, I'm not sure it's going to even fully release this year out of its early access. So I officially dropped it. And with that drop, I acquired Super Mario Party Jamboree with a bid of $5. Should be okay for me. I did some research on the Mario Party games, and they do pretty well. Even the last one that wasn't received as well did pretty well. So fingers crossed there. And then we have Gage, who acquired the game Towerborn with a bid of $5.
Yes, sir.
Nice. And then, lastly, you also acquired Starfield Shattered Space with a bid of $5. I actually debated between that and Mario Party Jamboree. So there you go. You got Shattered Space.
I need games that are releasing this year.
That's fair.
This is what I need. I'm also very disappointed that Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster is not available, because it's a remaster, but also it's kind of not, as we've explained, that it is a brand new game made. Like, this is the tricky part of this stuff. So I think I should be able to get that one, but Fantasy League says no, so fine, whatever.
Fair. All right. Did we have? Oh yeah, we did. We did have one game that released, I believe, unless I'm missing one. Let me just look over the list real quick, see if anything pops out. Yeah, I don't think that any of his. I don't think any of his. Yeah, I think it's just my one game that released this week, and that is EA Sports College Football 25, which I was kind of, a little mixed on when I talked about it last week, but apparently it's doing pretty well. It's at an 84 Open Critic, so 14 points for me for the comeback of college football. It's been 10 years since we've had a college football game. Insane. I'm coming back, actually. I'm coming back, baby. These guys thought they had it in the bag. I'm at 97 now. Let's just do a rundown of the points.
Yeah, why don't we just do a rundown? Let's just do that. Why don't we just do that?
Gage is sitting at 17 points. Yeah. But to be fair, you have a lot of games that could still come out, maybe. Hades 2, you better drop Hades 2. I don't think that's coming. And then let's see who's in the I'm in third place with 97 points. Christian is in second place with 104 points, so I'm 7 behind him. And Roe is in first place right now with 108 points. Man, this is a tight race. Gage, you got to get your shit coming out. You got to get your games coming out to get up to the top.
I know.
So the breakdown, Roe has had 8 games that have released. Christian has had 8 games also that has released. I have had 7 that have released, and Gage has had 1 release. So Gage has plenty of opportunity to come back. A lot of time left. Dan is almost broke at $7. I have $7 left to my name. All right, so that's our draft check-in. The next game that comes out is a month away, so we have a ways to go before another one, and that is Black Myth Wukong on my team coming August 20th. So be on the lookout for that. All right. Gage, are you ready to get into what you got for me? I'll go first. What you got for me, Dan? Well, Dan, I started Still Wakes the Deep. I got how many hours in? Like 3 or 4? I don't know. 4 hours in, maybe? I can't remember exactly. Very much enjoying this game thus far. The atmosphere is very cool. The horror elements took a little bit for them to show up. I was like, because you guys were talking about it, and I was like, what the fuck are they talking about? This game's a cakewalk. I don't have any problems. And then I got to the moment, and I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but I got to the moment where I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I literally screamed out loud. It was awful. And yeah, it kept coming. It literally, the thing kept coming. And I was like, no, that couldn't be me. And I took a wrong turn one time, and I was stuck in a corner, and it was coming at me, and I literally closed my eyes. I was like, I can't. Nope. Can't do it.
It's spooky when it hits. It hits.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Christian is playing Shadow of the Erd Tree. No, I'm just kidding. That was last week. Gage, what you got for me?
I don't even know. What have I been playing? What have we been playing?
We played some Played Up. We played some finals. Did we play finals?
We played a little bit of the finals. Yeah, a little bit of finals. Always a little bit of Played Up. It's been a slow week for me. Nothing. Where I can add anything interesting to the conversation. All the usual suspects. It's been a slow week for me. So yeah. Looking to play some more stuff this weekend, hopefully get back on the Fallout New Vegas kick. Still have to beat Old World Blues, which is my least favorite DLC, and holy crap, has just grinded my process to a halt. So we'll see what happens.
See, you say that, but we're about to get a remaster of Fallout 3 and New Vegas.
Listen, listen.
I'm still got my hopes up for you.
I do too. I'm hoping for that at least Fallout 3 remaster. Give me something to chew on, please, Bethesda, please.
Pretty please. All right. Sorry, I'm trying to check permissions for Keurig as well. Topic of the show, Gage. Here we are. We've made it. We're talking about the franchise importance for Xbox/Microsoft. We could talk about both. When I was thinking about this, I saw the video pop up that Microsoft released announcing Modern Warfare 3 coming to Game Pass, which it came today to Game Pass. And they had a little thing at the end that kind of showed like a spread of a bunch of Game Pass games. And I was just looking at this thinking like, are these like the IPs that they find, or are these the IPs that are, you know, their highest priority right now? Like, is this their list that we're looking at and like determining like how far back a game is? Right. Is that the lowest priority? I just found that as an interesting like proposition and thing to talk about. And I feel like our answers are going to be different for the priorities of Microsoft/Xbox versus like what we feel would be important, or maybe it won't be. We'll see. So I thought that would stem an interesting conversation. And then I also got a look at a very nice graphic made by Clobrill. He's an Xbox community member that makes some cool graphics, and it also made me ponder as well, seeing all the numbers of people that have played each of these franchises. Yeah, the active players, or not active, sorry. The total players. Yeah, total players, thank you. And so I thought that was very interesting. So, starting off with the Modern Warfare 3 announcement into Game Pass coming today, it ended with a bunch of games. And the one that's in front, of course, is Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, because that's the game that they're announcing coming to Game Pass. So we'll kind of wipe that from the record because that's just what they're announcing for today. Right next to it, they have Call of Duty Black Ops 6. So seemingly Call of Duty, very prominent there. Indiana Jones is on the other side, which it seems like they're trying to position it as a big IP that for them. They've got Hellblade 2 behind that. They've got Fallout 76 behind Hellblade 2, which interesting choice. And then it gets a little
Quarry?
Yeah, and then it gets weird. And then it gets weird. The Quarry, and the one behind that I can't even tell what it is.
No Man's Sky, I would guess.
Is it? Okay. And the one behind that is Resident Evil 3, and then it starts to really fade out. So at that point, it's kind of irrelevant. And then on the other side, we've got, behind Black Ops 6, we've got Diablo 4, we've got Sea of Thieves, and then we've got Halo Infinite tucked in behind Sea of Thieves. And then, what is that? Is that Pow World? That's Pow World behind Halo.
Pow World, yep.
Yeah.
And then Far Cry 6, it looks like.
Yeah, and then it starts to fade out again. It gets difficult. So I was like, is this what Microsoft thinks that, like, of their first, like, not even first party, because there's a bunch of third parties on here too, but like, you would think that they would want to put their most prominent IPs on the forefront of this announcement of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 coming to Game Pass as a way to further entice people to want to sign up for Game Pass, right? Like, is this how they're valuing the franchises that they have in their Game Pass selection right now, I guess? Like,
I don't know. I think this more than that, this kind of reeks of maybe like maybe not intern, but kind of like this was just given to somebody as like, hey, throw something together, because the first three, there's a logic behind it. Okay, you've got Indiana Jones, which is coming out. They're going to want numbers on that. Right. That makes sense. Modern Warfare 3 is the announcement today, so of course that's going to take center stage. And then the same logic as Indiana Jones, you've got Black Ops 6, a hotly anticipated game coming up. But after that, it just gets fucking bonkers. Like, I heard lots of good things about it, and I'm happy for the team. But like Hellblade's Senua's Saga, okay, it's a recent release, but I don't know that it's really in the buzz anymore. That's kind of an interesting choice. Fallout 76, again, kind of in the zeitgeist. I would say the Fallout brand is and slash was, but I still think that's a weird choice. The Quarry is fucking wild.
Yeah,
that's wild. And then even further, like you said, we're getting far back now to the point where they're probably just picking random games.
Right.
But Resident Evil 3 remake,
right,
is instead of Resident Evil 2, very strange. And yeah, I don't know. This seems like this was just kind of like an assignment given to somebody, and they just kind of picked it at random.
Right.
That's the best I can make of this, because I don't think there is any logic aside from those first 3 games.
Right. Yeah, I thought the same thing after looking at it deeper, because you're right, because like you see the forefront and you're like, okay, Diablo, Call of Duty, Indiana Jones, Hellblade, yeah, those make sense, and then you kind of you stop looking at it. But for whatever reason, when they announced this, I kept looking and I was like, wait a minute, what the fuck, where are these games in here? But yeah, you're totally right. It probably was just like a assignment they passed on to somebody, and they're just like, okay,
right,
yeah, this is in Game Pass, put this there, this. Yeah, it is interesting.
Almost maybe like decided by like the prettiness of the box art, or like the contrast of the box art. Like,
right,
maybe that's what they were doing. Yeah, because game titles, like you said, Halo Infinite tucked in behind Sea of Thieves is kind of wild.
Yeah.
If this were me, this would be like you'd have Modern Warfare 3 up at the front, and then you'd have the tentpole franchises. I'd throw a Gears of War in there. I'd throw a Forza Horizon in there. I'd be like, hey, this is the Xbox package you're getting with, the newest edition up at the forefront. But yeah, this is a very odd collection of games thrown in there.
For sure. But that wasn't the only point of discussion. The Clobril graphic made me ponder as well, and I kind of want to get our thoughts on this, of what we think. Do we think that the numbers of players, total players, is driving Microsoft's ideology behind what franchises are most important to them? So, like, this graphic that he put together it's missing a lot of the big IPs. It's kind of just focusing on certain studios, but it's an interesting look of what I would call a mixed bag of games. Like, they're very different games from one another. Right. So you have Starfield with 14 plus million people. You have Overwatch with 100 plus million people, which is a bit deceiving because that game was changed into Overwatch 2. It was a weird thing there. Grounded, which has 20 plus million people, which is actually insane. Microsoft Flight Simulator with 15 million plus. State of Decay 2 with 11 million plus. Forza Horizon 5 with 40 million plus, which that's kind of crazy. Minecraft Dungeons with 25 plus million. Sea of Thieves with 40 plus million. Fallout 76 with 20 plus million. The Elder Scrolls Online with 24 plus million. And Halo Infinite with 20 plus million a long time ago.
Right.
But obviously these numbers I don't think will compare to like Call of Duty numbers. I would have been interested to see what Diablo numbers would have been as well, because I feel like that did really well. But do you think, like, how do you prioritize if you're Microsoft? Are you looking at these numbers, prioritizing the IPs by the player counts, or like, I'm just curious what you think they're not what you think that it should be prioritized as, but like what you think Microsoft is prioritizing by.
I don't think it comes down to just player count as much as that would be an easy metric for us all to look at.
Right.
Because I look at say Sea of Thieves with its 40 plus million. I don't think it's bringing in anywhere near as much money as something, say, like your Forza Horizon at the same level of 40 plus million, or even like your Elder Scrolls Online, which probably I'm not familiar with Elder Scrolls Online, but I'm sure there's monthly fees, there's a subscription service, or there's microtransactions or something with MMOs. There usually is. So like, number of players is an important metric. I think activity is important, but I think if I'm trying to guess how Microsoft is running things, it also probably comes down to the amount of money going into the project, and more importantly, the amount of money coming out of that project, coming back into their pockets. Sea of Thieves, I love that Sea of Thieves has been getting a lot of marketing from Xbox, has been getting a lot of spotlight, and I think it's easy for Xbox to do that because I don't imagine it's a money sink. I think it's a game that is probably, I don't know if it's self-sufficient. I don't have the inside information to assume that, but it seems like a game that is not super taxing on resources, but is getting enough sort of people playing it that it's kind of worth advertising. But I don't think that necessarily translates to it being a huge seller for Microsoft, if that makes any sense. Like, I don't think it's a money-making machine. I just think it's a lot of people are playing it. It's in the zeitgeist. A lot of people are really happy with it, and it's, you know, it doesn't have too much money going into it. So I think that's certainly an aspect to it, where it's like the amount of money going into the project, the amount of people playing it, and the amount of money that they're making on the return.
The ironic thing is like Sea of Thieves is actually doing the seasonal model extremely well in terms of staying relevant, because that game came out in 2018 and here we are 6 years later, and they're still releasing new updates every year for that game, like big expansions to that game every year. So yeah, that, I think you're totally right. I don't think that Sea of Thieves is like making gangbusters or anything, but clearly they're being self-sufficient, or else they would have stopped updates a long time ago, which is cool to see. I mean, for that kind of level of game, especially for Rare, that was struggling for so long to figure out like their identity under Microsoft anyways. I think that's pretty cool. How would we prioritize their IPs, Gage? I'm just curious. Now we're just going to go into the weeds of it here real quick. How would we prioritize their IP? What's
how do you think Microsoft is prioritizing? That's a great question. I want to get into that, but before we do that, I want to get your take on this.
I would say 100% they're prioritizing based on money. So I mean, obviously, Halo Infinite, for example, obviously I talk about it a lot because that's our bread and butter and such. But like, that game was promised as a 10-year game. They kept saying it was going to be a 10-year game, around for 10 years. Well, that game's development is no longer, they're still updating and doing stuff like that, but it's no longer in serious development anymore. And that is because the game was not making enough money anymore from microtransactions. And that's the key for them. They only care about the bottom line. They don't give a crap about anything else. They don't care about if the game's good, bad, whatever. They just want to make money. And it's an unfortunate reality from a $3 trillion company that they literally just want more money. And sometimes that comes from games having degraded quality and poor launches, and it's quite unfortunate for that reason. Yeah. Ugh. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. Call of Duty, I'm sure, makes gangbusters with their fucking microtransactions. I mean, Warzone's a great example of that. Warzone's free to play, which is if you would have said 10 years ago even that Warzone would be free to play, like a game mode, fully fledged game mode in Call of Duty would be free to play, people would have been like, you're insane. They ain't going to do that. But they are doing it because it's bringing in a way more amount of players that are just buying up all the microtransactions, and that's what's funding the games.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Wow. Insane. But no, back to the path I was going down. How would we prioritize IPs? Like, even if you want to talk about like which IPs you would prioritize, or even if you want to talk about philosophy, like what types of games you would want to prioritize.
It's so tough because, like, I think you and I are just a different breed of people than the people actually making these decisions. So like, it's hard to even kind of rationalize, because it's like I think to myself like, oh, it'd be completely different because it would just be a different culture, it'd be a different this, and like I wouldn't have the same goals. But I don't know. I would definitely. I think player engagement above all else is probably the best way to look at things. Engagement not meaning microtransactions, not meaning money in, money out, but in terms of like, are people having fun with this? Are people logging in and playing and having a good time and staying around for events and community events and all that stuff? Are people vibing with this? Cool, let's put more money into it then. That would be my main philosophy, I think. I think that's the easiest way for me to kind of rationale it. So it'd be, I mean, my list would look like, half similar to this one. I mean, Sea of Thieves would absolutely be on there, and deservingly so. And I just want to echo your previous shout out to Rare, because oh my god, they did have it rough for so many years, and it's so cool to see them pop off with something like this. They just nailed the core gameplay of this game like really early on, and so I think the seasonal model came quite easy to them, because just pirating your ship around on the open seas with the wave physics is just fun. So like it's easy to just add additional content onto that. Games like Forza Horizon, Forza Horizon is interesting because it's kind of like, it doesn't really have a yearly model, but it does have a kind of consistent model where it's like a Forza game comes out and it gets a lot of buzz and it gets a lot of engagement for like the first 6 months to a year, and then it does kind of filter out after that. So there's going to be some exceptions to my rule based on how these games format, but I think engagement, if it was me making the calls, engagement would be, what are people vibing with, what do people like, what clicks. And for the studios that make something that doesn't get a lot of engagement, don't worry, you're not getting fucking fired and laid off. You just get to go back to the drawing board and come up with something else. That would be Gage's Microsoft/Xbox.
You know what's crazy? You just mentioned Forza Horizon having a regular cadence. And you're totally right. They had a regular cadence of every 3 years they would release a new Forza Horizon game. And I was just thinking, like, when did Forza Horizon 5 come out? And I just looked it up. 2021 that came out.
Interesting.
So we should have had a Forza Horizon 6 this year. So that's interesting that we didn't get that. Maybe next year. Maybe the team is a little bit thin if they're helping out the Fable team.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're two different teams at Playground, but maybe there's some crossover there that they helped out with that. But yeah, you're totally right. Forza Horizon, staple franchise, even more so than Motorsport now. Like Horizon is way more popular than Motorsport, and from what I've seen, and it's more pick up and play for like the casual gamer as well, which I think is huge. So yeah, I would definitely prioritize more Horizon games, of course. Sea of Thieves, absolutely, just because of the success they've had. Yeah, and obviously you're going to prioritize Call of Duty to an extent because of what it is. I do wish that they would prioritize it a bit more in terms of quality and give the developers a bit more time if they need it, rather than stick to that 1 year cadence or, releasing every year. Because I think that sometimes their games, quality-wise, are not up to snuff. And obviously there's money reasons for that, but in a world where we don't worry about the money things, that would be cool. Yeah, and obviously Halo. I think the key here is Microsoft has tried to prioritize Halo. I think the problem is they haven't managed it well. I think and that's where my biggest gripe with people that in the past have had issues with 343 specifically, and I totally get, some of the people at the top, Bonnie Ross, etc. We've heard things about Bonnie specifically now since she's been gone, that she was kind of part of the problem and that kind of thing. But like, I still believe that part of the problem is inside of Xbox, and I don't know exactly where it lands, but we've talked about this before, and I'm not a big fan of Matt Booty. I don't think that Matt Booty's a good manager. And like, that's where it gets troubling, because you want them to prioritize Halo, but it's like, I feel like they have prioritized Halo, and it hasn't taken another step because of them mismanaging it. So like, it's like I want them to prioritize it, but like them prioritizing it hasn't really paid off because of the management. So it's like, what the fuck do you do? I don't.
Now, I wonder though, similar to how you were taught, and I totally forgot about Activision. That's a great point with what you're saying with Call of Duty. I wonder if the solution to these problems isn't a little bit of column A, column B, where it's like you maybe, if management were to step away, that the quality might improve on some of these things, right? If you were to get some of the, like, there's too many hands in the kitchen type situation, just go away for 2 years, let 343, let Treyarch, let Sledgehammer, let Infinity Ward do their thing, do their prototyping, do their pre-production, come up with ideas that are different, right? Instead of having the C-suite people kind of breathing down their necks saying, okay, well, this worked last year, this worked last time, so make sure it's this, make sure it's this, make sure it's not too different. Like, I do wonder if almost stepping back and not prioritizing something could give it room to breathe and room to grow and evolve into something better. I almost wonder if that might, be something that's possible. Now, again, sure, that's possible in your mind and in my mind, but in the real world, obviously, these people are clutching their pearls and are never going to let that happen. But you saying that just kind of jogged at my mind that I think that maybe not a lack of prioritization might help in terms of oversight and these developers kind of getting a creative streak back.
It's true. Yeah, because we've had conversations about that before, about prioritizing Halo specifically. So yeah, maybe if there's less pressure on Halo to be that top dog now that they own Activision, Call of Duty is essentially their top baby now.
Right.
There's less pressure on Halo, that it can just kind of sit in the background and just 343 does their thing, and maybe we'll actually get some good stuff from that as a result. That would be interesting. Let's spread Matt Booty so thin that he has no time to go to 343.
Phil Spencer might be one step ahead of you on that one, because he's got a lot of things to keep charge of now. Yeah,
that's true.
You know what?
That's you know what? That's a brilliant scheme by Phil. Now I get it.
Yeah, Phil, I see you. You're playing 4D chess. I get it, Phil. I get it. I take back all my criticism. You can't fire him, but you can't spread him thin.
He has some kind of clause in his contract that he can't be fired or something. And
right.
Phil's just like, how the fuck do I deal with this guy?
Right. Phil's doing the little finger thing. He's like, all right, let me scheme around this.
Let me buy Activision so that Matt Booty has no time to do anything else.
In Phil's office, there's just a dartboard with Matt Booty's face on it, and he's just trying to figure out something. How can I get this guy out of here? I'd love for that to be true. But your point about Activision, what's interesting that you saying that just kind of sparked an idea in my head, is that I think the thing that these CEOs and sort of studio heads, or I should say corporation heads at like Xbox, Sony, etc. I think maybe one of the problems is that they have a AAA franchise that maybe no longer does the numbers they want them to, and they desperately try to think, how can I keep this AAA franchise AAA? How can I keep it from flatlining? But you saying that Xbox buying Activision to be their top dog can maybe give Halo, some room to grow. It's like we see time and time again that small little indie games can have like monstrous success. And I wonder if the shot in the arm that some of these franchises need is maybe Halo does kind of get to a point where it's like it's just a small team with, I was gonna say small, but in terms of AAA thing, maybe it's a small team and maybe they've got like an $80 million budget. And maybe they make something really cool with that. Maybe it's not this massive Halo game that has all these features and, is loaded to the brim with AAA sort of stuff that you expect. Maybe it's a small little experience that gets people talking and that captures people's attention. And that's the shot in the arm that the franchise needs. I mean, these things, it's possible. Who knows? So going back to our what we were saying with the lack of prioritization and lack of oversight. I mean, it seems like all of these things are kind of interconnected, and it would be cool if something like that did happen, where maybe Xbox through its prioritization of Call of Duty, maybe Xbox 343 comes up with something cool that's like a small, maybe like again the scale of something like this hypothetical Halo CE remake.
Right.
Maybe it's just a small little campaign only, but maybe they take some liberties with the story, and it is kind of different and fresh, and it just happens to hit at the right time and gets people talking, and now suddenly, oh, well, people are talking about Halo again, and look at that. It wasn't because we were trying to make sure it fit into the mold of what came before, and we were trying to keep it AAA and blah blah blah. No, it just came naturally from the studio, due to a lack of resources or a lack of mandates from the higher ups.
The one, you saying that the one thing that worries me that I'm just now thinking about, if 343 makes the Halo CE remake, which we don't know if they are or not,
right? The whole thing could be bogus,
right? They very well may outsource that to another studio,
right.
But if they make the remake for Halo CE, the rumor is that there will not be multiplayer. It will just be a campaign. And the worry that I have about that is we will continue to have Halo Infinite as our only multiplayer place to go at that point. And honestly, thinking about it, especially now with these Forge improvements that we're getting with Halo Infinite, and the Forge team still continuing to work on Halo Infinite, makes me wonder if that's their plan, that they're going to continue putting out Forge stuff for Halo Infinite to allow the community to essentially keep Halo Infinite alive while they build Halo CE remake and release that, which, if that ends up being good, that's really cool, but also it's a little disappointing for someone like me that loves the multiplayer as well. Like, it's kind of like a bread and butter thing for Halo with me, where I love the campaign and I love the multiplayer. And so, yeah, that's a little tricky for me. I really hope that, I personally still hope that they are outsourcing that CE remake to a good studio that will do it justice, like maybe Certain Affinity or something like that. And 343 is heads down working on the next mainline game. But I guess we'll figure that out soon enough. In the next probably year or two, we'll probably know.
Right.
Be interesting.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, you and I have talked about this at length. We've beaten the dead horse at this point, but Halo Infinite gameplay very good, but the meat puppet that it's wrapped in is a little shaky, and the UI especially is kind of rough. So that I see what you mean. That the idea that we're going to be stuck with these menus and this way of navigating and user interface for the next 3-4 years is
yeah.
it's not great. It doesn't really inspire hope. So yes, I agree with you. I would hope that they have something else cooking as well, and hopefully that the mainline team is the one that's working on that, and you have somebody like Certain Affinity that's handling these little offshoots and spin-offs. I mean, but I would also take the other way around, right? If Certain Affinity was working, I mean, rumors were that it was working on a big battle royale, Tatanka, obviously. If that evolved into something that has, a multiplayer campaign, something offering, and 343 is like, what, we're gonna do what we do best, which is the story and the story of Master Chief and these characters, I would also take that. I just think I agree with you that I want both things working simultaneously. I don't want putting all of our eggs in the campaign basket, even though my love of Halo does lean more towards that. I love Halo for its story more than anything else. I would want there to be two things on the go. I don't necessarily think it matters who's doing what. I agree with you that I want a new multiplayer offering to kind of keep things fresh before the next 5 years, please God.
Yeah, and to be clear, I don't mean that I don't like Halo Infinite. Like, Halo Infinite's great, like you said. The gameplay is great. It's just, you get to the point where you're like, I'm ready for the next thing. And I got to that same point with Halo 5 where I loved Halo 5's multiplayer, but I was like, I'm ready for the next thing. So yeah. we'll see, I guess. We didn't even talk about Gears of War, which I feel like is a big Xbox franchise, but obviously it's been a bit on the back burner since 2019 because that was when Gears 5 came out. But maybe next year that'll come back around with E-Day, which that looks cool.
I have a question for you, Dan.
Yeah.
Skipping back just a little bit, skipping back to our conversation about how we prioritize franchises.
Yes.
Do you think that maybe they're looking at maybe even just a part of the conversation? I'm not talking about the main focus, obviously, because I think you and I are both right. It's money. Money is the main focus always. But do you think that a part of the conversation, at least recently, has turned into which of these franchises can be adapted well to other media? Because I think with Fallout, we've seen that there can be tangible benefits to the existing medium of games if you do an adaptation extremely well. I don't think Halo Infinite got the numbers from the Halo TV show, regardless of how we feel about the TV show. I don't remember seeing a lot of headlines like that. I don't think there was a spike. And maybe that's just because Halo's been around so long and like it's just I guess Fallout has too. I don't know. So it doesn't work with everything, because I don't remember at least Halo getting a big spike when the show came out, but Fallout certainly did. And I wonder if maybe they look at some of their franchises like Gears of War. Forza would probably be hard to do, but I wonder if they look at some of these things and go, which one of these can we kind of cross advertise and kind of build momentum with other projects? I think Gears of War, I mean, people have been talking, Dave Bautista obviously has been talking about a Gears of War movie for like over a decade. He's been floating it out in interviews saying that he'd love to do something like that. So I wonder if that kind of enters people's heads as well in the Microsoft sort of marketing levels or the business suits, if they're thinking, well, this franchise would lend itself really well to a series or to a movie, and if we did that and it did really well, then that can boost this. And I wonder if they bounce ideas like that around.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you have a great point there. I think that they're definitely, if it's a good adaptation like we saw with Fallout, it can absolutely bring a lot of interest to the games, as well as we saw a whole bunch of Fallout games get a lot of interest during that show's run. But also something I just thought about as well, like especially with Gears of War E-Day coming up and also the rumors of Halo CE Remake, I almost wonder if they're getting some inspiration from Capcom with what they did with the Resident Evil remakes, and kind of looking at their IPs, and they're like, we got to go back to the roots a bit more. So E-Day goes back to the roots of Gears of War, the more horror and gothic feel,
right? And
Halo rumored to be going back to CE as well. Maybe they're just like, man, all of our single player games that we have, we got to go back and reinvent them. And Fable, of course, as well.
Fable.
Perfect Dark.
Perfect Dark.
I mean,
you know what?
Yeah.
I think you're onto something here. And I'll be honest, if more video game mega corporations wanted to look to Capcom as inspiration, I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing, because Capcom is one of, I wouldn't even call them, I don't think I'd call them a mega corporation at all. They're definitely big. They're a huge publisher.
Yeah.
But they were totally in an era of being another Ubisoft, of being another EA, where they were not as renowned as they are now. And what's cool about Capcom and what I give them credit for is that nothing really spurned it on. It wasn't, they just kind of had something must have happened internally with no external factors, where they just decided to start prioritizing quality. And it absolutely worked out for them. So for you saying that, I hope so. I hope somebody at Xbox is looking at Capcom and going, well, hold on a minute. They turned the ship right around, and they did it within like 3 years.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And if Xbox wants to if Xbox wants to copy anybody's homework, fucking Capcom, go ahead, please. I'll give you the whole fucking playbook. Sit down, read this for an hour.
And they released new Resident Evil games during that same time span. So like they regarnered the interest and got new Resident Evil games as well.
And I bet you Because, well, I mean, it did absolutely, because we all played Resident Evil 7. They did. They when they went back and they redid their games, they took lessons from those old games, and it helped the new products.
Yeah.
So absolutely, yeah. I think I would love for Xbox to do that, and I would love for this to be a sign that that is what they're doing, because I think it'll help. It'll help them kind of regain their identity and realize, like, okay, this is what made these franchises special in the first place. This is what players connected with, and yeah, that would be awesome if that's what's happening.
Hell yeah. Keurig says Fable and Perfect Dark. Looking forward to both. Hell yes, Keurig. I'm with you on that. All right. Anything else before we close out the show, Gage?
Nothing that I can think of.
Your chance to speak to Phil Spencer right now. No, I'm just kidding.
Phil, listen, Phil. I know we've had our differences in the past, but just take your foot off the gas a little bit. Get rid of Matt Booty, right? You got to do that, and let 343 cook a little bit. Let them do their thing. All right.
You know what, Phil?
Also, give Undead Labs all the money that they require.
You know what, Phil? You're doing a great job. Just keep Matt Booty, keep the carrot right in front of him. Just keep leading him away
and have that carrot go out the front door of the building, please. And change locks.
And we hate to see all of you being led out the back door. But thank you again to everyone joining us live on YouTube and Twitch, as well as podcast services everywhere, including Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Spotify, and everywhere else you get your podcasts. Thank you, Gage, Ro, and Christian will return next week. I am Daniel, and this has been Podcast PXN, and we are out. Much love and keep on gaming.
Adios.